So it's been a couple years since artist Drake has dropped anything with Nike or with Jordan brand. In fact, over the last couple years, it actually looked like he was leaving the Nike family to go join Adidas. I'm not exactly sure why Drake didn't decide to see his Adidas collaboration through, even though I'm pretty sure it was pretty far into the design process. It's possible that it was because of some beefs going on with other rappers and artists on the brand. For whatever reason, we are now finally getting Drake's first signature shoe, and it's with Nike. What's up, everybody? I'm Seth Fowler, and today I'm reviewing the brand new Nike Nocta Hot Step Air Terra. So this shoe has been rumored for a long time. In fact, I think the first time Drake was actually spotted in this shoe was back in January 2021. And now, over a year later, this shoe has finally released to the public. Speaking of the release of this shoe, the Nike Nocta Hot Step Air Terra officially released in two different colorways on March 3rd. The two colorways that dropped were a triple black colorway and this triple white look, and both sneakers retailed for $180. And it's really interesting to me how different this Nocta Air Terra is than really any other rapper collaboration sneaker. I mean, you look at sneakers from like Pharrell, which are all prime knit boost sneakers, and sneakers from Kanye West, which are now all like foam croc style shoes, and then you get something from Drake, which is really more of a callback to the 90s. In fact, this sneaker has such an old school aesthetic. When images of this shoe first leaked, people were surprised and honestly didn't like it. In fact, the reception to this design is very similar to that of the Yeezy 700s. When Kanye first announced that sneaker, people hated it, and it's funny because that shoe is actually pretty similar to this shoe in more than just reception. It's also similar in the size and the overall bulkiness of the sneaker. But before we get any deeper into the shoe, let's take a quick look at the box. So much like the minimal design of the Nike Nocta Hot Step Air Terra, the design of the box that it comes in is pretty similar in its minimal aesthetic. A large portion of the box comes in a natural cardboard finish with minimal Nike and Nocta branding, and the other portion of the box comes in this sort of matte, dark tan or dark gray color. On one end of the box, you've got the size tag. I went with the size 9, which is my true size. Obviously, this other tag on the other side of the box is the GOAT tag because I grabbed this pair from GOAT. And then the official colorway of this shoe is white, chrome, topaz, gold. Getting back into the sneaker itself, even though the Nike Nocta Hot Step Air Terra is a pretty simple and subtle looking shoe, there are a few details throughout the sneaker that actually make it a lot more interesting than you would expect. But starting off with some of the materials that make up this shoe, around the toe of the shoe on the mudguard, you've got this really nicely tumbled white leather. Now, even though this shoe looks simple, the materials used on this sneaker actually seem higher quality than most other Nike sneakers. I'm not saying that they're designer quality leather or maybe even real leather. I don't know if this is synthetic or real, but I've got to say it feels very soft and the tumbled texture looks really nice. As you may have already been able to guess, the upper of this shoe is heavily inspired by early 2000s basketball sneakers. And that actually makes a lot of sense. Drake was coming up in the early 2000s and he probably looked up to a lot of those basketball sneakers. And yes, while they were all bulky and honestly very chunky looking, similar to this shoe, they were some of the most popular and most iconic basketball sneakers of all time. And an interesting design detail, the mudguard of the sneaker actually turns into the entire midfoot and side portion of the shoe. And from what I can tell, a majority of the upper of this shoe is actually made up of just one piece of leather that wraps all the way around the sneaker. And the textural details that are added to the side of the shoe are because of these stitched lines that run from the ankle area of the shoe all the way down to the toe, and also these perforated details that also come in this linear pattern as well. I really like how they created such a dynamic and interesting side panel of the shoe with just one piece of leather. Usually when you look at other leather sneakers, there's a lot of different paneling details going on that create the interest on the shoe, but on this sneaker they just added some stitching and some perforations, and that was about it. Moving up in the shoe to the toe, you've got a separate leather panel accented by this 3D Nike swoosh that comes in metallic silver. It's definitely a simple hit, but one that I think adds a lot of detail to the toe of the shoe, and you guys know me, I love mini Nike swooshes, so this is a welcome addition in my book. As you move farther up in the shoe, you get to the tongue of the sneaker that comes in this white nylon material, and running down the center of the tongue, you've got another piece of white leather accented by these reflective details around the edges. And those details are interesting because I didn't even realize they were reflective until I hit them with just the right light. In fact, in this studio lighting, they just look like cream edge details, like they don't seem special at all, but when you hit them with a flash, they pop, and I really love that. In the center of this leather detail at the top of the tongue, you've got this sort of 3D plastic window through to the Nocta logo underneath. And then weaving through lace loops hidden underneath the leather upper, you've got this white rope lace. Near the top of the ankle area, you've got this bright hit of metallic silver with this teardrop shaped lace eyelet. Moving inside the sneaker, you've got this white mesh sock liner, which is pretty well padded, especially around the midfoot and the heel of the shoe. And then rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've got this light blue insole with the Nocta logo and Nike logo printed on the heel in white. Now I'm sure by this point in the video, you're probably wondering about sizing of the Nocta Nike Hot Step Air Terra, and I've got to say that after wearing this shoe for a couple hours, this shoe definitely fits true to size. but it is a little bit snug. I have pretty narrow feet and I found that this shoe fit me well, but again, it was pretty snug, especially around the midfoot portion of the shoe, and I think if you're a wide footer or you like having some space around your foot, you might want to go up at least half a size. I've also got to say that because the upper of this shoe is so heavily padded and so covered in leather, it's not the most breathable upper in the world. In fact, my foot got very hot in this shoe, which makes sense because it's inspired by basketball sneakers where your feet would sweat as soon as you stepped into them. Maybe that's why they called it the hot step. Also, I don't know if you peeped the hotness in the on-foot portion of this video. That's the brand new Apothecary sock collection. We've got 4 colorways dropping this Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time on apothecary.com, and I can guarantee you they will fly. And actually, all 4 of those colorways look great with the Nike Hot Step Air Terra. I mean, it's a white shoe, but they do all look good with this sneaker. That being said, the upper of this shoe is pretty comfortable because it's so well padded, and if I had to compare the feel of the upper of this shoe to another sneaker that was similar, I would probably go with the Yeezy 700s because the upper of this shoe feels very similar. Continuing back on the sneaker past the leather detailing that we talked about earlier, you've got another mini Nike swoosh towards the heel. Now this Nike swoosh is only present on the lateral side of the shoe and not the medial side of the shoe, which makes sense because you want your branding on the outside of the sneaker so that people can see it. Then continuing around to the back of the shoe, you've got 2 reflective hits on either side of the heel, and surrounding those hits, you've got a slightly cream colored leather panel. Then rounding off the heel of the sneaker, you've got another see-through plastic gem detail that says G-Tech in the middle. Not sure exactly what that means. I'm sure it's some older Nike technology, but if you know, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Then moving down on the shoe, you get to this white sculpted midsole, which apparently is heavily inspired by Nike's ACG line. The midsole comes in this pretty soft co-molded foam. I'm not sure exactly what kind of foam it is. They don't specify it anywhere, but it's pretty soft to the touch. Not only that, but towards the heel of the shoe, you've got this visible air unit that has these yellow pillars inside, which actually accent the shoe in a very subtle but clean way. It also does add some nice step-in comfort, which of course I appreciate. And then in kind of an interesting detail on the medial side of the arch, you've got these repeated Nike logos, which create this really cool sort of pattern. I'm not sure exactly what it's supposed to symbolize other than repeated Nike logos, but hey, I like it. Oh, it is actually 6 Nike logos, so it could possibly symbolize the 6, which is Toronto, which of course is where Drake is from. That's what I'd assume that means, but who knows? Then finally rounding off the sneaker, you've got this ACG trail outsole that comes in both white and in yellow rubber. And even though this yellow detail can't really be seen that often because of course it's underneath your foot, it does add a nice pop of color when you lift up your foot to the people behind you. Overall, I've got to say that the Nike Nocta Hot Step Air Terra is a pretty clean new look from Drake. While the style of this shoe might be underwhelming to a lot of people, I personally appreciate the minimalism of this sneaker and I love the inspiration behind it. The upper inspired by 2000s basketball shoes, the ACG midsole and outsole, both things combined together create a look that not many people would think of or expect, and I think overall it's one of those styles that might actually be pretty timeless. Now, I have no idea how popular this sneaker will be in the long run. Obviously, the initial colorways of this shoe sold out instantly. We don't know how many pairs there actually were, but I would assume it would be somewhat limited. But when it comes to the newer colorways that will inevitably drop in the future, I have no idea how well those sneakers will do. I don't know if the hype will still be there for this shoe, and I don't know if the resale price of this sneaker will skyrocket over time. I have no clue. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But now I would love to know your thoughts on the Nocta Hot Step Air Terra, whether you were able to grab a pair for yourself, whether you're trying to grab a pair for yourself, or whether you completely avoided this sneaker altogether. So make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all